Good afternoon, YouTube. Welcome back once again to Fat Cat Collections. Got another Spinnaker watch for you folks today. And now, if you guys have been, I don't know, living under a rock and you're starting to look at different watches out there, I highly encourage you to check out the Dartmouth brands, whether it be Nubeo, RGMT. Spinnaker, again, I've said it in many videos, Spinnaker is one of, I think, their flagship brands. It's a brand, I think, that just commands respect across all the watch community, right? I don't think there's really anybody who would have the balls of dissing a Spinnaker watch like they do Invicta or some of the other brands out there. And it's really interesting, too, because when I compare quality of watches, there's always going to be little nuances, little differences in watches, little differences in quality, but most of the stuff out there is pretty good, right? I mean, you kind of... It's a night and day difference when you're comparing watches off AliExpress for $16 to $30, and I hate using price as a determination for quality because, let's face it, Rolex, a brand like Rolex, or whether it be AP or any of those high-end luxury brands, you're not getting $10,000 plus worth of quality, right? You're really getting more like the $800 to $1,000 quality, right? They're very subtle differences, most of which most people on Earth are not really going to be able to tell the difference. So when you get a brand like Spinnaker, I don't see, when you have brands like this, I just don't see the point in ever spending $1,000 plus for a watch. I always say be a smart shopper, buy what makes you happy, and just understand that when it comes to price, there is markup in all brands, right? And it just depends on how much a brand wants to mark it up and what their reputation has allowed them to charge for their watches. Now, Spinnaker, again, when I talk about respect, I always say buy what makes you happy. You guys know I don't bow down to anybody, right? And I don't really give a shit if people absolutely think my watch is a piece of shit or a piece of garbage, right? Whether it be Invicta, an Aragon, a diesel watch, or just a $15 special on AliExpress. I buy watches and wear watches that ultimately make me happy. They bring me enjoyment in getting something new, wearing something new, and they're accessories for me, right? But not everybody's like that. And some folks aren't going to buy an Invicta watch because of some of the negative comments you'll see online and just the stigma that the brand is cheap, right? Spinnaker, not so much. Spinnaker is pretty much well respected. Even some of the scumbags that are on YouTube, the fake trolls that we have out there, the shills for different companies who they own websites, they're basically referring you to brands that only they sell. I'll be the first one to tell you, you guys know I'm not a Rolex fan, but that doesn't mean I don't appreciate the brand. And by all means, if you find value in my video and I refer you somewhere and you buy one, then thank you. You probably got me a commission. But the point is, whether commission's involved or not, you should always buy what makes you happy. And if you go to my video and I don't have a brand on there and you're like, hey, liked your video on Spinnaker or, or Invicta or Aragon, whatever the brand may be, but I'm really drawn to this other brand, I'm not going to tell you, oh man, you're wasting your money and try to sell you on why you should buy something that I like. Ultimately, a watch should speak to you, and value is subjective. But don't get it twisted. Don't think that because you spend more, you're necessarily getting more quality or better quality. A lot of people are liars. A lot of people out there will pick up a watch that costs 10 grand and they'll compare it to a watch like this for the $550 price point and give you a billion reasons on why this watch is inferior, when really 99% of the people out there objectively looking at these watches and feeling the difference in your hands and how they tell time and the accuracy are if you have a brain in your head, are going to say, I just don't see a $9,500 at minimum difference in quality, right? But again, that doesn't mean you shouldn't buy what ultimately makes you happy. And that's what it really comes down to. Buying watches that when you see them makes you want to wear them, right? And you see it all the time. People, the knucklehead trolls we have on YouTube, who buy like a Rolex watch, talk about being their holy grail watch, and then 6 months later they're ending up selling it because they're scumbags. Excuse me. They're really just looking to capitalize off somebody else and just say, I can get this, hold on to it, and hope that it increases in value, and then try to flip it. I get it. I understand, hey, making money is great, but, for me, watches aren't about making money. When it comes to the brands that I enjoy and that I wear, I'm fortunate to be able to collaborate with brands, and by all means, I'm not trying to state that there isn't money involved, but ultimately, I'm going to review and wear what makes me happy. And every brand that I get, every brand that I collaborate with gets worn on my wrist. I enjoy them. There are some times where if a watch absolutely sits and I just never wear it, I'll sell it, but you're not going to see me do a video saying how it's inferior quality or something like that, right? So, with all that out onto the table now, let's talk about Spinnaker. So this brand, again, even the guys who I can't stand on YouTube will say good things about this. So this is a very safe bet for somebody looking to get a watch in their collection that's going to command, I mean, the respect of the watch community, right? But, I mean, again, if that's important to you, fine, but it will, right? Spinnaker is a fantastic brand. And this is what we would consider, like, when I review watches, I talk about the check boxes. And the check boxes for me are going to be different than the check boxes for you. For me, it's what is the watch made out of? So with this, we get a 3/16 stainless steel watch, right? That is number one for me. Quartz or automatic, that may be a different one for you. For me, I'll go either way, but I will always want to gravitate towards the automatic watches. I just like the idea of all the mechanics. I like the fact that there's just the mechanics behind it, right? And so I absolutely love automatic watches. I'll always choose an automatic over a quartz. Now, my dad, different, right? My dad doesn't, he doesn't always wear his watch every single day. So he prefers to have a watch that he's not going to have to constantly set, right? Automatic watch, you put it down for, whatever the power reserve is on it. Let's say it's 48 hours. You put it down, you wear something else, especially if you have a big collection, you're going to have to reset the watch. So for me personally, I'm constantly setting watches when I want to wear them. Doesn't bother me, so that's why I gravitate always towards the automatics. Some brands don't make automatics. You're going to have to choose quartz, but most brands have a nice mix. What else? So this one here, again, is the Spinnaker Dumas. Arguably, I have several of these watches. And one of my favorite models, I think my favorite model that Spinnaker makes. I love this vintage hexagon style case. It really just is different than you see in 90% of the watches out there made, whether it be, homage watches, whether it be brands coming out saying, hey, we have our, you see them all over at, Indiegogo, you see them all over like GoFundMe pages, new brands coming out. I watched a YouTuber the other day who, he used to absolutely love Invicta watches, and he still does, right? But he's starting to branch off into other brands, right? And you'll hear him talk about like a very generic watch, and again, all that matters is that he likes it, but talking about the style, let's face it, standard round watches, there's not a lot of like thought that goes into making those. They're basically just round. They look like every other Rolex watch or homage Rolex or pro diver out there. And again, I wear them, I enjoy them, but it's not something I get too excited about because it looks like every other watch out there. This does not. So this is a great watch. Somebody says, hey, I don't want the same old Rolex look. I don't want that same old boring round case. This gives you that awesome hexagon shape, right? It's very angular. It's very iconic to what vintage watches look like. And I can only assume that more of the vintage dive watches look like that, probably due to the machining at that time, right? Nowadays, they can do a lot more modern machining. Again, that's just my assumption. It may not be true, but I feel that's why you see that angular look on more, vintage style watches. So I love that Spinnaker did this. Again, it is what I generally look for when I'm looking for a micro brand dive watch. And I'm a huge dive watch fan. That's like my go-to, whether it's big 55mm Invicta dive watches, Aragon, Diesel, or brands like Spinnaker, right? I just love the dive watch. And that's pretty loose. Like, you can really almost label most watches dive watches, right? So let's talk about the dive rating. All right, so just reading right off their website on the specifications, we have a 300 meters of water resistance on this. So you get a great dive rating. I mean, taking this pool, take it where where you want to go. You're not going to have any issues with that. 44mm case diameter. I like the fact they didn't keep it at that kind of generic 42. Even worse, the 38mm that look like females' watches. Again, wear what makes you happy. I just personally think it's way too small for my liking. I think minimum, you want a watch to be noticeable, in my opinion. And I feel like when you get a smaller watch, you start looking like, a little boy wearing a little watch, right? Again, I'm not, and I don't mean that to insult anybody. I'm just stating that for me personally, I like a watch to be noticed. I was pretty impressed the other day. This is a different color variation here. My same brand, same model. These are beautiful watches, right? And they bring me a lot of enjoyment. But they don't always get, if you throw an Invicta on the wrist, you're going to get, it doesn't matter where you wear it. If you wear a Sea Hunter somewhere, somebody is going to say, wow, that's a big watch, or whoa, that's quite the watch, or ooh, I like your watch. With a watch like this, it's not as noticeable, right? It's a lot more subtle, and I get that. But I was out at a casino the other night, and some guy's like, "Ooh, I like your watch," and I was like, "Thanks, man," because I don't always get the compliments. You know, a lot of people don't always want to give somebody a compliment, and sometimes it's, you know, we live in a different world nowadays, right? But this is the cream with the vintage green, right? Very cool that I got complimented. This one here, again, same watch. This is the GMT automatic version. This is the standard automatic version, right? As far as what's powering this watch, hands down, if you go with a Seiko NH series movement, you are getting a robust, solid, well-respected movement that's going to bring you years, if not a lifetime, of good use, right? And so this has got the NH34, a GMT automatic. So it's great because you don't see tons of NH34s being used. A lot of times it's the NH35s. Great movement, have a ton of those, but it's nice to have the GMT. I think it's pretty cool. It's just different, right? And GMT basically is, you can set it for military time or GMT time, right? That's generally how I use it. Not everybody's going to set it for actual GMT time, even though that's the purpose. I just use mine as military time. And here we do have all the way from, you know, all the way from midnight, 1 in the morning, all the way through midnight. 1 through hour 24. So pretty cool. We do have a unidirectional rotating bezel on this. This, I will say with this model, if you are a guy who's uses the bezel often, is a little bit tough to grip just because it is a glass bezel insert, which I think is a stunning look. And if those who aren't familiar with kind of the slang or the lingo going on when it comes to color variations, Spinnaker does not call this the Pepsi, but it is a Pepsi bezel, which is the blue and red, which is, you know, I don't really have any Pepsi bezel watches, so I wanted this one in my collection. It's clean, it's iconic, it's classic, and definitely something I wanted with that GMT. Again, exhibition window on the case back, 316 stainless steel, that NH34 automatic movement. We do have a sapphire lens, another checkbox for a lot of folks. I don't think it's a big deal personally. I've never scratched a watch, but you know, most people, especially if you are a guy who, you know, maybe is looking to buy, let's say you don't have a lot of watches, and this is a watch you're like, you know, I want to add one to my, maybe you don't even have a collection. Maybe you want to just kind of go with more specs, you know what I mean? So sapphire is the most scratch resistant. Again, remember, anything scratch resistant is more prone, it's harder, so it's more prone to being shattered, right? Softer materials, more impact resistant. Again, that I don't say that to plant any seeds of fear in anybody's minds. You're not going to have any problems with these unless you abuse your watch, right? I see idiots sometimes on YouTube being like, I hate the quality of this watch. Or what happened to it? I dropped it. Well, dude, like, really? Like, I mean, seriously, Karen, come on. So, yeah, I mean, this watch has definitely got all the specs you want. And I think when we look at those specs or those check boxes, I think the most important ones for a lot of folks out there are brand name, material, crystal type, automatic or not, and then what kind of automatic movement. Depth rating, you know, I think you really have to start to geek out when you're like, I only buy 1,000, like, you know, who cares? Like, any of these watches, for what most people are going to do, are going to be water resistant, right? They're not, you know, you can swim with them, of course, you can hop, people will say don't take them in the shower, hot tub. I do that all the time. I haven't had any issues other than with one Invicta, which was cross-threaded on the back. It wasn't anything due to quality, it just had to do with the quality control. And, you know, these things happen. That can happen with any brand for that matter. So, but never had any issues with Spinnakers. Let me try to get this to focus here. Sorry, guys. This thing. There we go. Just a great looking piece. Look at that angular case. A little mirror polishing on the edges to really kind of emphasize those. Has a nice wrist presence. We have 15 millimeters in case thickness. It stands up high on the wrist. I mean, not for me personally. I don't think this is really a big watch at all. But for you, some folks out there might think that 15 millimeters is pretty thick. It's not. I just absolutely love this watch. I mean, it's hence the reason why I own several of them. It is arguably, if you are going to be getting a Spinnaker watch, I encourage you to check this one out and add it to your collection. Again, it has that vintage look. It really separates itself from all the other watches out there that are trying to be Rolex, right? So, and again, that doesn't mean it's bad, right? I'm just saying, you know, it's just, it's nice. It's refreshing to get something different. You know, brands that are kind of similar, which do the vintage thing, are brands like Pantour, brands like Neathans, I think it's called, which I still need to get. There's a lot of those micro brand watches that produce that vintage styling. I think Doxa is a perfect example of something just different, but with the with the price of Doxas, it's like you might as well get the Tactical Frog. That's what I did for $100. So, but price point, this one here is on the higher side, right? And I think that a brand like Spinnaker can command that because they are unfortunately all sold out at the moment. So I encourage you, if you do want to pick one of these up, go ahead and click the link in the description. They do have a Labor Day sale coming up, 20% off. I also have a coupon code you can use at any time in the description. Use it, take advantage of it. I don't know if you can double dip on those, but I would click the notify me when available to get notified when this is back in stock. But if you are hot to get this now, this watch is a hot seller. There's not a lot of these in stock right now. Man, I can't believe it. I just was here the other day and they had, let me see the green. Is the green gone? No, the green, that's weird. The green is not showing up here under Dumas. Let me just go back here and just, I don't want to give you guys a bump steer, so I just want to tell you guys what's in stock. Oh, there it is. Okay, so we do have the Sahara. That's one I just showed you. We do have the orange face, the tangerine. There are several variations in stock, but a lot of these are sold out. So get on the notification list. I don't think this is something that Spinnaker is making in a limited fashion. I think it's such a popular watch that they're going to continue to make this, right? It's just, I'm so glad I got the Pepsi. It's just a great looking piece. Awesome. All right, so as far as the presentation, Spinnaker box is pretty similar. We have the branding on here, yellow and kind of a, I don't know what that is, almost like a dark aqua, almost like a greenish blue, orange pillow. You do get a strap on here, a silicone, I believe it's silicone strap, and they did make this very easy for you to change the band out. They do have push pins allow you to not have to use a tool. You can just get your fingernail into there, pop the band off or the bracelet off, which I really like. This is kind of a fun watch because it is easy to change the band or bracelet out, right? And a lot of times I don't want to be bothered with it because I have to pull out the push pin remover and, I just don't deal with it. And I'm more of a stainless bracelet guy or a metal bracelet guy myself anyway, but there are some times I might want to throw a cool, like maybe alligator or red strap on this, maybe do it up blue and red, right? So this allows you to do that with ease. And again, the black, simple, glad to give it to you, but I would check out, sites like AliExpress, eBay, Amazon, find a nice looking, maybe NATO strap for this if you're going to change it up, but they do give you silicone as well. But I do think this is a watch that everything about it is so nice looking the way it is. I can't imagine changing this out. I think what would be a better selling feature for this particular watch, they do make it on the shark mesh as well, and I think that this brand should make these watches available with the shark mesh, so you'd give you two looks, the shark mesh and the standard bracelet. I think getting rid of the silicone strap would be a much better option. I think for this price point, I think they could throw that in there, and that would, to me, I don't know any brands that give you multiple bracelets. And I think having multiple bracelets really changes the look of the watch. Again, for me, I'm a bracelet guy, so I probably will never throw a silicone strap on this. Any watch I have with silicone straps, generally I've taken them off, unless it's something like the other dark turquoise variation of this, which comes with the turquoise strap, which to me is, if I want to throw some color in my life there, I can do that with something like this. But I would never really pop on a black strap on this. I enjoy the bracelet far too much. So that's it, guys. Without further ado, let's throw in the wrist and show you what it looks like on a guy my size, my height, my weight. I'm 5'8", I weigh about 170 pounds, and I have a 7-inch wrist. So it looks like on a guy my size, my height, and my weight. I do have to remove one more link in this. I wanted to get the video done today, so just kind of keep that in mind. There's a little play. Some folks, will wear their watch very loose. I don't recommend that. Gosh, man, this is actually the first time I'm putting it on. This looks absolutely stunning. I didn't think I was going to like this as much as I do, especially because I have all the other cooler colors. Man, this is just a stunning looking piece. God, man. And this is what's interesting about brands like Spinnaker and a lot of Dartmouth brands too, like Nubeo. If you haven't checked those out, I highly encourage you to give them a go. You know, they are like, when people buy these watches, they're kind of following suit with what like Invicta and Aragon does. You know, people are buying these and they're saying, "Oh man, I already have one of those. You know, the Pepsi bezel. Ooh, I want the turquoise," and they'll buy another one. It's such a great looking watch that you owe it to yourself to have a few different color variations in your collection. I mean, everything about it, it has to be one of my favorite watches in my collection. I feel like I wear this more than lately a lot of my Invictas, to be honest with you, because it gives you it gives you best of both worlds. You know, you have a watch that's not too big. I can wear this and not feel like I'm gonna be banging it on things, right? Granted, you know, if I am working on the car or doing something outside, I will take my watches off. I'd rather not. You don't have to. You're not gonna hurt them, right? But I mean, you are gonna scratch your watches regardless of how careful you are. It just happens. But you know, this is just. I've been wearing the Dumas watches for quite some time now, and every time I get a different color variation, I'm always like, how did I not have this in my collection? So it is just a great piece, and I encourage you to pick it up. Use my coupon. If their coupon, use whatever coupon is going to save you more money. And let me know if you do get this. I'd love to hear what you guys think. Stay tuned for another Spinnaker watch. We're going to be checking this one out in a couple of weeks. Another fine, sexy piece. I think kind of like similar to what you're going to get out of like a Panerai kind of styling, which is why I had to have it. Absolutely love it as well, so stay tuned for that. And if I can help you guys in any way whatsoever, do not hesitate to ask. I'm here for you. Have a great day, folks, and take care.